My capstone project is an attempt to reconcile two movements that I care a lot about. One is really activism against sexual violence, and the other is advocacy against incarceration and in favor of prison reform and criminal justice reform. But ones that I noticed a lot of tension between as I was working on them, in the sense that often you'll see people who are ordinarily very progressive around issues of criminal justice really advocating for harsh criminal sentences for people who have committed sexual violence, which is, of course, an impulse that I understand because we want people to be taking harms against women and anyone who's a victim of sexual violence, we want that to be taken really seriously. But based on my work related to the criminal justice system and prisons, I was really skeptical of that as a solution and as a sort of proper mechanism for justice. And so what I wanted to do with my capstone was start a conversation around those issues and really get people talking about what is the most effective way of achieving justice for acts of sexual violence. And so I'm hoping to create a website that really sort of looks in detail at some particular sources that I think are relevant to each movement, and really hoping to kind of reveal some important critiques around ways that we can be addressing sexual violence. Since I care so much about the work on both sides of that project, I really wanted a way to sort of envision a future where they're not in opposition to each other. It's something that I'm very emotionally invested in, and because it's such a fraught topic and in some ways so controversial, it's absolutely the most sort of emotionally draining and emotionally challenging academic project that I've ever been involved in. I think that I had a lot of doubts as I was going through this process of is it okay to be making the sort of critiques that I'm making? Is it better to kind of just stay silent in service of cohesion within a movement? But I think what really helped me resolve those kind of questions was the structure of the colloquium in which all of the students in this program got the chance to talk about their projects together. And the feedback that I got from other students, from Jim and Paul, but especially from my peers, was that this was a question that had kind of been bothering them at the back of their minds as well. This was something that they cared a lot about exploring more and really thought that people should be talking about. And so getting that feedback and really seeing how it was essential not to stay silent in this context because it's such an important, even though it is difficult, issue, really kind of validated me and allowed me to work through those doubts. One other important thing I think to know about my project is that it is not really an attempt to be conclusive about finding answers to this problem. It's really more about asking the right questions and getting the conversation started. And I am not kind of in any way presuming to have the solution to what we do in cases of sexual violence in a world where our prisons are sites of human rights violations, where our prisons are reproducers of toxic masculinity. I think that the important thing here is that by starting a conversation, we can kind of work together toward those answers. And really what I see this project as is taking the first step and making sure we're asking the right questions.